experiencing what it was like to have 4 knee surgeries during my junior year in college. That really opened a door for me towards the sports psychology world. And yeah, that's when I decided that I wanted to stay connected more towards the mental side of the game. During that junior year in college, it was really difficult for me to come back. It all started with a simple surgery, but it ended up being three more that I had to overcome in a period of 2 years, 2 years and a half. That's when I after I completed my bachelor's, I transferred and went to SIUB, where I completed my master's degree, and I also started with a sports psychology consultant over there. And yeah, that's how I found out the sports psychology world. I got super interested into it, finished my degree. Then after that, I'm trying to now work with any athlete that it's hoping to improve their mental game. And yeah, that led me to work with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Hello and welcome to The Meeting Place. We're your hosts, Mariah
and Richie Sele.
And we welcome people from diverse backgrounds to share their stories of overcoming mental and emotional setbacks and challenges to enhance their life, work, relationships, and mental health. If you're wanting to grow as a person or turn your wildest dreams into actionable goals, this podcast is for you. Each episode will include practical tools from us, a husband and wife therapist team, helping you to grow mentally, emotionally, and relationally so that you can build your ideal life.
Transformation starts here.
Today we have our special guest, David Lianes. David Lianes is from Spain, and he has a similar story than mine. So he came from Spain looking to improve his performance at the collegiate level, was able to play in the NCAA, and is currently working for the Tampa Bay Rays as a process and development coach. And we're so happy and glad to have him. David, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Happy to be here with you guys. Spending some time. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us, how did you start your journey? Like, came from Spain and to where you are at today?
I think, yeah, I mean, it all started back in Madrid, in Spain. I played soccer my whole life. And I would say towards the end of, it was in the summer of 2016. That's when I had the opportunity to come to the United States, play for a D1 soccer team, and also get my bachelor's in exercise science. And at the beginning of this journey, I thought that I really wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach, personal trainer, going to the fitness route. But after experiencing what it was like to have 4 knee surgeries during my junior year in college, that really opened a door for me towards the sports psychology world. Mm. And yeah, that's when I decided that I wanted to stay connected more towards the mental side of the game. During that junior year in college, it was really difficult for me to come back. It all started with a simple surgery, but it ended up being three more that I had to overcome in a period of 2 years, 2 years and a half. And yeah, that's when after I completed my bachelor's, I transferred and went to SIUB, where I completed my master's degree, and I also started with a sports psychology consultant over there. And yeah, that's how I found out the sports psychology world. I got super interested into it, finished my degree. And then after that, I'm trying to now work with any athlete that it's hoping to improve their mental game. And yeah, that led me to work with the Tampa Bay Rays.
That's a really cool story. I'm curious, it sounds like when you had those surgeries, that was a pivotal moment for you. What was it about going through that process that changed your direction?
I think something that not a lot of athletes think about if they don't experience is it's what's gonna happen after you finish your career, right? And especially when you go through a long term injury like mine was. I remember my second surgery. It took me 10 years to get 10 years, 10 months to get back on the field, and that was a hassle, right? So once you experience a long term injury, you start basically thinking what's gonna happen once you stop playing. And some athletes goes through that experience when they are 30 years old, when they're 35. Some athletes go through when they're 20. Some of them they're 17 years old when they have to face the reality of that transition. And I think having that injury really opened the questions for me of, okay, well, what's gonna happen after I stop playing?
Mm. So what was that like, your process overcoming those injuries? Like, can you walk me through like how were you able to overcome them?
Mhm. I think there was a pivotal moment or a breaking point where for the first three surgeries they all happen in the same knee, right, in the right knee. For the first three surgeries, I did what I was supposed to do, right? Like I went to work with a strength and conditioning coach, then I will get into the field, and then things wouldn't work out. Like I will get injured again, right? But after I had my fourth surgery that happened at SIV, that's when I started working by a sports psychologist, and she really helped me understand that coming back from an injury is not only important to think about how strong you are, how fit you are, how quick you are, but also how resilient you are. Right? Can you understand the emotions that you're going through those moments? Can you instead of beating yourself down because you're feeling some pain in a random day of practice, can you still find a way to overcome that? And I think that was one of the biggest factors for me to be able to enjoy one more year playing. That was actually the last year that I played. um to actually have that support from someone that helping me understand what the emotions that I was experiencing in those moments, but also give me the opportunity to think and reflect on the things that I needed to do each day to accomplish that goal, which was to be back on the field.
So did the sports psychologist, did they teach you something like in a specific that was like key for your recovery?
I would say we had plenty of strategies that I used during practice and during games. Once I think once you're doing that transition of return to play from training by yourself to training with the team again, right? That's something in sport like it happens in soccer. You have to face a new scenario that wasn't there before, right? Because before, I would say like for the first 4 to 5 months, you're basically training by yourself, right? Now you have to train with the team. Now you have to expose yourself to situations in the games that had a lot of variables, right? You have to think about the opponent. You have to think about the decisions that you're gonna make with the ball. So it's a lot more complex, right? You go from a controlled environment to a chaotic environment, and some of the skills that we work, for example, was okay. Once you start to feel that sensation, it wasn't pain, right? But you're gonna take some time until you feel normal again. Once you start that sensation, what's the first thing that you're gonna tell yourself, right? Are you gonna tell yourself that the day is over, that you have to quit, or are you gonna try to calm yourself down a little bit and support you in that moment, right? And something that I love that she told me in one of the sessions that we had together was that we are the most important person that speaks to ourselves. Like you're the most important person that speaks to yourself. And I think that really stood out to me. And I try to take those training sessions as okay, this is an opportunity for me to train the way that I speak to myself. And the interesting thing too is that it not only applied to my injury, but it was also um, a wake up call for me to understand how I had to um, face mistakes when I was making mistakes on the field, right? Sometimes especially in soccer, when you lose a ball or you give up a goal because you were tracking back an offensive player and he scores, we tend to think that it's the end of the world, right? And that was something for me too that she really changed the way that I interpreted those mistakes. Instead of thinking about something about how bad I was, I took it as an opportunity to learn. And we can get a little bit into the whole concept of growth mindset from Carol Dweck that I'm sure you guys are familiar with. But I think that was one of the biggest things, training the way that I was talking to myself.
And how do you help an athlete? I mean, we could come back to your story, but now that we're talking about the growth and fixed mindset, like how do you help an athlete, overcome those words and thus, having a fixed mindset?
Mm. I think the first thing comes to understanding that we all have negative thoughts, right? Like every person in the face of the earth has some negative thoughts. We just need to find out a better way of dealing with those when they come. And at the end of the day, every thought that we have, that information, right, that our mind is giving us either about ourselves or the environment that we have. So for an athlete, especially, let's say that right after they make a mistake on the field, and it really doesn't matter the sport that you play, but we've internalized this story that if I make a mistake, I'm a bad player, right? Like I don't have what it takes, and I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. When in reality, once you start playing, let's say for a 16-year-old player, right? You have your whole career is in front of you, right? A training session again is not gonna dictate your future, but our mind is trying to tell us that it's trying to give us a warning, right? Like is that like that alarm system in the car when there is something wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is something wrong. It is that your mind is trying to give you some advice, some wake up call, like hey, here's something that we need to change, right? And in that case would be interpreting the information in the most objective way and say, okay, I made these mistakes, but I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to apply it in the next game, in the next training session, and I'm going to keep going with my journey. And I know I can accomplish big things. But again, especially when things don't go our way, it's a little bit difficult to overcome that negative self talk.
Yeah, so it really sounds like having a growth mindset in the face of adversity or mistakes, and also remaining flexible to pivot, whether that be in continuing to pursue your career in sports or pivoting because your career in sports is coming to an end, which I want to touch back on that because I sort of missed the opportunity. But I thought it was really interesting that when you were going through those surgeries, you were faced with the reality that you wouldn't be in sports forever. And what does that mean for your future? And I think that is something that is really pretty unique to athletics, because you age out much more quickly than other fields. And the competition is so stiff that your career often does not last nearly as long as other fields. Um, yeah, I remember we did this really extensive research project on athletes, and how athletics affect mental health and vice versa. And one of the things that we found was that um, people who are super invested in their sport oftentimes are behind their peers in terms of planning for their future because all this in front of them, they're hyper focused on that sport. And then when that comes to a close, it's like, oh, now I need to figure out my life now and figure out my next steps. So taking it back, what was that like for you?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm really glad that you guys were doing that project because it's a really special topic and important topic in the world of sports. Um, when you are playing a sport, especially professional sports, or when you are in that college environment, especially those first year, right, freshman, sophomore, you think that that's gonna last forever. The reality that you face when you wake up, you take care of your body, you train, you go to a couple of classes. In the case that you play professional sport, that's the only thing that you need to do, right? Like your whole life involves you getting better each day, right? I believe that's taking care of your routine, thinking about how you can recover and sleep better, the things that you can do to get you to where you want to be. And and I think professional athletes, at least that's what I experienced too, right? We tend to think that that's gonna last forever, and we kind of live in a bubble until that point. And when you face a long term injury or you are doing some tryouts and they don't work out for you, and that team doesn't call, that's when you start to think, okay, this might be over. I gotta start thinking about a plan B. And yeah, it's especially important that I think we educate and we send a message to every young athlete that is out there, that obviously it's important to try to reach that better version of yourself, but also thinking about, okay, if things don't go your way, what are you gonna do with your life? Basically, right? What's gonna be your plan B?
And I'm curious to know, you work with the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm highly curious to know, how do you guys, support athletes or baseball players in this case, you know, be prepared for this transition because it can happen anytime for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a super important topic, especially right in a world where you the economic reward is always there, right? For these players once they sign that first contract, especially. And facing that means that, okay, you need to find something else to do. Either if that's, working for a company, trying to find a new job, maybe going back to school, right? Like it really depends on the case. But something that we try to have conversations with our athletes about, it's okay, what will happen, if at some point your career is over. We don't tell them, hey, think about what you're gonna do this weekend or next year, right? But think about it from a perspective of, okay, what do you want to do with your life 20 years from now, 15 years from now, 10 years from now, right? Or if at some point, you can talk about this hypothetical scenarios too, where, okay, if at some point your career will be over, what will do that look like for you, right? And I think with those questions, maybe they didn't need to come up with the right answer, but it's definitely important that they think about one or two or maybe three options that they will have in mind for where that moment comes. At least they have some foundation, or they have some idea, or when to go from there.
Have you seen that that helps people to transition more smoothly, or do you see that it's still a pretty big shock for people when they are released?
I think it really depends on the case and how much notice or idea they have beforehand, but it definitely helps to have something planned, right? If you don't know where you're going, I mean, that's when you lose that sense of control, right? So at least having a general idea of what that life would look like outside of the sport can give you some foundation, something that is solid that you can fall back on in case that sports don't work out for you.
Uh, so I'd like to take it back a little bit because, you know, it caught my attention that you came from Spain to the United States. And as an international student myself, we experienced a lot of challenges. I'm curious to know, what challenges did you experience and how did you overcome them?
Right. Well, I would say the first challenge when you come to a new country is the language, right? I mean, English being my second language, I think at the time when I came here, I probably knew 15% of the English that I know now. I remember my freshman year in college, I even had to drop a philosophy class because it was just too much for me. Like, you have to read all that material. There are plenty of books, so you have to be prepared for those type of classes. And I remember, like, it took me probably like an hour to read 4 pages. And then, yeah, I mean, when you have to read 30 to 50 pages every week, that doesn't work out. So I think one of the biggest challenges, right, especially if you're going to a country that doesn't speak your language, that's the first one. And then also getting used to the culture, right? Being away from your friends, being away from your family as well. Um, and just yeah, analyzing how different things are. It's in the US and back in Spain. Um, the times too where you eat, right? For example, let's give you a quick example. There, like, here in the States, I changed my schedule completely when I came. I was having lunch at 12 p.m. When I was in Spain, I had lunch at 3 p.m. Right? Like, those small details that change your day completely. Yeah, that's something that you need to get used to, for sure.
So you mentioned cultural differences. What are some of the most notable cultural differences that you had to adjust to?
Yeah, I would say something that I noticed, especially in college, is that when, like, if I'm with my friends and we're living in the same place, right, in the same apartment, for example, or we will try to find some time to eat together, right? If we're living together. And I noticed like here in the US, it's more common to not eat together, like eat individually, be on your phone, like watching a video or playing video games, doing something that is not maybe like sharing that time with your friends. I think that was something that um I had to get used to it as well. Although I always tried, to eat with my friends and all that. That was, I think that was one big difference that I noticed. Every time that you have a meal in Spain, and I think obviously this is you know especially true in all the Latin American countries as well, right? Like you try to eat together with your family, with your friends. Where here, I think it's a little bit more and more individual, generally speaking, of course.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be a major adjustment. Being married to Richie, a Westerner, married to a Latino, I know that Western culture is much more individualistic, and his culture is also much more communal and social. And yeah, to the point that I remember we moved in where we're at now, and I could not believe that he was just gonna walk up and say hi to the neighbor. In my Western mindset, I was like, "Daddy, you can't just go say hi to the neighbor randomly." And he said, "No, I have to introduce myself." And so he walked up there. We're like, "Hi, we're the new neighbors." Now we have this great friendship with her.
And grandma now.
Yeah, she called her grandma.
Awesome.
And that's all because of his cultural, approach.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the culture for sure has, some benefits and some drawbacks, like every culture. And so your specialty is in soccer, but then you transition to have a job that it's, related to baseball. Did you have any experience with baseball? And tell me, how was that?
See, well, that was working with the Rays. That was my first experience last year with professional baseball. I worked with some athletes in college before joining the Rays. I was teaching a sports psychology class for freshman athletes, so that was when I had the experience. So not only work with baseball, but with soccer players, cross country, tennis, golf, wrestlers. Like they were athletes from all types of sports, and that was the first time that I was getting more informed about the baseball world, basically. But when I got into the Race, that's when the shock came in, because that's when I had to absorb all that baseball knowledge.
And how was that being the DR for the first time? I assume.
Yeah, that was the first time last year too in the DR. Well, I was getting to know the whole system, how the academies works, the affiliates work, especially over there in the DR. As you're aware, it's a different experience, right? The ones that you have in the academy from here and the affiliates in the States. But yeah, I mean, being honest, I mean, always something that I some of the others they find it funny, but in Spain, I can't think of a baseball field next to, like, I've never seen a baseball field in Spain. But again, I mean, when I came there last year, I think it also it helped me have a better perspective, I think, into some things, because this is actually very interesting. When I started working with soccer players right after I graduated with the sport psychology degree, there were some conversations that I was having with them where they will ask me questions from a tactical or technical standpoint, right? For example, I play left back. I work with a left back too, and sometimes we're getting into these conversations where he will ask me things about his position on the field, right? And I had to keep bringing back to, I'm not your coach. I'm not your soccer coach, right? We're gonna talk about tactics and techniques from a general standpoint, and I'll find a way to incorporate those process skills and those process tools for your development. But I don't want to give you instructions about how you can be good from a tactical or technical standpoint. And that turned out to be great with baseball, because it was my first time with that sport. And I think that gave me some perspective.
I really appreciate you sharing that because I can relate in a different field. Like as a therapist, sometimes clients, well, actually, it doesn't really matter the age. Sometimes clients will approach you more as like a mentor and want advice. as opposed to processing and, finding the answer within them. And so then you have to remind them, this is the role of the therapist. If you want a mentor, you got to. So could you speak to the importance of the separation of those roles?
That's a huge topic into the whole mental performance, mental health world, right? And it's one of the first things that also it's important for athletes to understand, right? A process and development coach or a mental performance coach, mental skills coach, they are more guided towards giving you or teaching you the skills and the tools that can help improve your performance, right? So every time that we're dealing with um, either self-talk, positive self-talk, mindfulness exercises, visualization exercises, how to manage mistakes, how to manage expectations. Maybe you can work on some journaling after the game to reflect on the things that work out and didn't, right? That will be on the mental performance side. But then when it comes to the mental health side, it's true that you have that um I would call it um, mental health um, preparedness, right? Where you try to prepare, like when there is no a clinical issue, and you try to work on the things that could happen, right? What are some of the skills that you can develop that could help you to protect yourself from some of those mental health issues that athletes experience as well. But yeah, those are two different departments, and I think psychology in general and sports psychology too is that iceberg where a mental performance coach will try to work more on the surface, and a mental health practitioner will try to work more on that deep part of the iceberg.
Yeah. I mean, that's really cool. I'm glad that you're, getting this education, so you can, I imagine, help athletes, at a deeper level. And I'm curious to know, how do you guys at the Tampa Bay Rays, how do you guys, differentiate, from an athlete who needs mental performance support and mental health therapy?
Mhm. At first, we try to be very clear about the difference between the two. We have two departments. One is working with the performance side, and one is working with the clinical side. And we try to be very clear with the athletes on what those differences are, right? And it's more how we trying to explain to them. Let's say that you are suffering an injury, for example, right? That part when you are with a rehab coach, with a physical therapist, with an athletic trainer, that will be the mental health side, right? Once you are ready to play again, once you are able to get back on the field, you are with a strength and conditioning coach, right? That's gonna give you the tools that are gonna allow you, is gonna put you through a training program that is gonna allow you to be back on the field. That analogy between mental performance and mental health, I think it helps the athletes to have a better understanding on how those that mindset it's separated between the two fields.
Thank you for that. It's a constant conversation in our field of the mental performance. How do we separate that, and where do we refer if we don't have the education to help the athlete at a deeper level? So,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think too. It comes. I mean, it's gonna come to an individual case once you talk to the athlete, and once you see and ask the right questions about how he's feeling, what are some things that are going on through his head in that moment, that can help, that can give you some insight, and obviously knowing the difference can help you, because at the end of the day we are all trying to help the athletes, right, from every department in every sport, right? You have nutritionists, you have a sport nutritionist, you have physical you have athletic trainers, physical therapists. Everyone is trying, coaches, everyone is trying to provide a little bit of knowledge that can help the athlete reach that best version of themselves, right, in the future. And with these two departments, it's the same. We want to make sure that the athlete has the best care.
Wow. Um, Mental performance. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. So we in the mental performance field, we have a lot of tools that we can help the athletes. And I'm curious to know what is your approach and what are like the main tools that you provide to athletes?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also help. As you said at the beginning, right? That our department is called process and development. I think that also it shared some lights into how the athlete can understand the difference between those two. But yeah, some of the tools that I used in the past with athletes have been we just try to develop a better relationship with mistakes. Right? What is the first thing that you say to yourself when you make a mistake? What is the first thing that you say to yourself when things are not going your way? Right? How can we reframe that in a more positive way? I think that's a big one in every sport, not only in baseball, but especially in baseball, but in every sport is very important, right? Like how are you gonna put yourself in, even though you're having a really bad day, even though you're facing some mistakes right now, how can you still find the confidence? How can you still find the motivation to keep moving forward? How can you find that um, inner strength that is going to allow you to be confident on yourself? And that's a lot of times comes from the way that we talk to ourselves. Body language is a big one too, right? Even though you might not be feeling too confident in that moment, can you bring your shoulders back? Can you bring your chest high? Can you, not look at the floor beneath you, but can you look up? Can you? Yeah, right. Because that's something that we all do, right? We once when things don't go away, we try to unconsciously sometimes to hide ourselves from the situation. We try to shrug our shoulders, keeps our head down. We try to our body is trying to avoid, right, like that mistake or that difficult situation. So just being aware of that, right? Even though okay, you might not be feeling at your day, you might not have any positive feelings in that moment, but you still have the power to control your body language, right? You can still choose how you present yourself to the world. And I think that's very important, especially for athletes that are facing mistakes day in and day out.
I'm curious, what motivated you to add therapy to your arsenal in addition to the mental performance side of things?
I felt that I didn't have the right tools to manage those conversations. So when I started to see the limits within the process and development, mental performance world, that's when I realized that I need to get some more education in that aspect if I wanted to treat that, which I do. I mean, at the end of the day, I just wanna provide athletes with tools and with the best care that they can, so they can, not only reach that best version of themselves, but if they finish the sport, they have the right tools to face life in general. So that was what really motivated me, just realizing that I need to get some more education if I wanted to treat those type of cases.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that's so important because it's not always just, this mistake. It's um the first time we made a mistake in sports and our dad yelled at us and that voice is still in our head today and processing that. So it's all integrated.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that's a big one right there, right? Like just we're talking about the difference between those two worlds, right? But I think we try to the process and development mental performance world, we try to focus a lot more in the present moment and in the future, right? And I think that the mental health part is more towards exploring the past, exploring those feelings that you experienced from an early experience that you have, as you say, with a family member or with a friend, with a teammate, with a coach. I would say that's a big one to think. Okay, this is more towards the mental performance, personal development, more guided towards the present and the future, and mental health it's more towards the past. Yeah, I'll be curious to know what you guys think about that distinction.
No, yeah, I would agree with you. So I don't do mental performance consulting, but I do therapy and coaching. And coaching is very similar to mental performance consulting. It just isn't necessarily focused on performance. It could be whatever it is in their life that they're wanting to hone, enhance, refine, achieve the next, step in whatever it might be. And in coaching, it is much more present and future oriented. And it's much more, I would say, achievement oriented and behaviorally focused. Whereas therapy can be all those things paired with the past, and is more so focused on areas in need of healing. There can be that, like, okay, now that we've worked through this, how do we move forward? What does this mean for our future? And there's that behavioral element. Um, but if you're strictly focused on goals and achievement and, taking steps in your life, then that's not really therapy, because therapy has the rest of it with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, building rapport with the clients, having a strong relationship. Um, I think therapy helps a lot. And like to a deeper level, as you mentioned earlier, um, compared to just, the mental performance, giving tools, which are helpful. In my experience, which I'll pass that one to you, like I have one client who uh, was able to benefit from both, like therapy and mental performance. And, doing that integration, like, fantastic, overcoming injuries and, back to perform at the highest level. I'm curious if you have any stories, with the athletes that you're seeing. You mentioned one just recently, but I'm curious if you have any other stories of an athlete who, uh, you know, came into the office and you were able to provide the right tools so that he or she could move up to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are multiple multiple experience that I had with athletes, where obviously you're trying to find the right tool, the right skill, you're trying to have the right conversation with them. But one of the main point is how much does the athlete trust you, right? I think we can start there, because as much as you want to have and I think this is true in every other industry as well that is related to athletes, right? You can have the best nutritional plan, you can have the best strength and conditioning workout ready for the athlete, but if the athlete is not there, if the athlete doesn't trust you, he's not gonna give his 100%, right? And when it comes to having those conversations with you, is the same thing. Does the athlete trust you to let you know what's going on through his mind or through her mind once they talk to you, right? I think that's extremely important. Starting from there, and then based on what the athlete's giving you, how his experience are shaping his beliefs or are shaping the way that they're seeing the world. That's when you can start thinking about what tools or what skills are going to benefit the athletes. But I think from specifically performance standpoints, routines are a big one, right? Well, how do those 20 minutes before the game start, what do you do during those 15 to 20 minutes before you have to be ready to perform, right? What is that voice that you're hitting? Are you focusing on the things that you can control, or are you letting yourself go by some bad scenarios that might be going through your mind in that moment? Are you able to stay present and focus on those warm-up exercises that you have to do to get you ready, or are you getting yourself carried away by those anxious feelings, right? That you might experience because what you're gonna do right now, it's very important for you. That's when, strategies like focus breathing, right? Taking a couple of seconds to really focus on that breathing sensation when you inhale and you exhale through your mouth, and you give that relaxation sensation to your body, can help you stay in the present moment. Um, and I would say too, something that really comes out a lot with athletes is, what are the things that you can control today, right? How can you make sure that your mind today is thinking, focusing on all those things that are gonna be important for you in that particular play that you're having, and how can you keep that focus constant during the game, either if that's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever the game lasts.
Controlling the controllable.
If you're looking for a therapist who will do more than merely teach coping skills, but will help you to work through core issues so that you can grow, heal, and transform your life, we invite you to check out Say the Counseling. At Say the Counseling, we maintain small caseloads so that we can give 100% in every session. Click the link below to experience the difference yourself.
going back a little, having your sports psychologist helping you, in your process of recovering from your injuries. So if someone who's listening or watching to the, this podcast, doesn't know where to start to ask for help, like, we've mentioned the help of a sports psychologist, mental performance, and therapist. Let's go with or remind me the role, process
Development.
development coach. Where do they start? Like, what is that needs to happen so that they can get the next step and how they can get the help they need?
I mean, I think definitely. I mean, nowadays social media can help you a lot, right? Taking some profiles of mental performance coaches, process development coaches. In the case that that person needs therapy, mental health practitioners, counselors, psychologists. There are huge resource that the athlete can use, right? Reaching out to the individual, setting an appointment, getting to know more about the world. When it comes to that psychoeducation, there are a lot of books that help depending on the topic that you are very interested in learning. Like for example, if you're interested into learning more about mindfulness and how that can help you stay in the present moment and improve your performance, George Manford wrote a book called Mindfulness. Um, and wrote a book related to mindfulness where he described the secrets to how to use these mindfulness skills and be better at what you do. That's something that you can start, right? Reading a couple of books, listening to a couple of podcasts like this one that can give you some insight into how these skills and how these tools can help you. It can be a starting point.
Yeah, and I definitely recommend books. I mean, as you just said, there are many options and they're for free on YouTube. So I found, books provide knowledge, and then that knowledge can open the gaps, for more opportunity of growth and development for everyone. So thank you for those suggestions. And then the podcast for sure. Think that's huge. One question I have, as a therapist, what is your theoretical orientation? Like, what is that like for you?
Mhm. Yeah, I think on the clinical side, something that I got in myself towards is cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm huge into the self-talk topic. I think as I mentioned it before, I think the way that we speak to ourselves every day is very important. What's something that the first thing that comes to your mind when you wake up, right? Are you focusing on all the bad things that happened the day before, or are you thinking about how can you make a good day today? How can it be a great day for you today? I think CBT can help you understand that you might not have the power to control all the thoughts that come into your mind, but you have the power to select the thoughts that are more beneficial to you. That the whole part where you train yourself to reconstruct when we talk about our cognitive distortion, for example, right? The all or none thinking, either today is a good day or it's a really bad day, right? I think all those all that part of CBT can really help athletes, people in general, to develop a better dialogue with themselves, and that can help them experiment positive emotions and get out of their comfort zone, so they can look for new opportunities and take advantage of those.
Awesome. Yeah. What is yours?
Um, Mine is object relations theory. So that focuses more on attachment. The earliest bond between the child and their caregiver, which is usually the mother, but whoever that might have been, maybe a grandmother, father. And then the way that shapes, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with CBT actually, because that relationship so often becomes our internal voice, which, is our self-talk, right? And so getting at the root of what created this internal voice, whether it be positive or negative. And there's a lot more to say about that theory in terms of like attachment styles and then, how you find healing. I don't know if you want me to go into all that. I feel like
It's good. I mean, the part of the self-talk and the CBT, I integrate the CBT and then positive psychology and internal family system. It has been fantastic to see how they all can be useful, because sometimes I find that not all of my clients are ready to do CBT, and then I need to find, okay, what's something else that I can provide because they're not there yet. Okay, let's keep on going, and let's make progress. So, but that's cool. Also, relations. So,
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do in therapy is integrate positive psychology. And by that I mean like taking a strengths-based approach.
such.
And I find that that seems to accelerate the growth process significantly. And it's just really enjoyable to see your clients, like as you say something to them that reaches them, and they just like light up and feel empowered, and you can watch that visibly in the room, and you're like, that was awesome.
100%. I think that you guys hit it right on the nail right there because it's and I guess you guys can talk about those experiences too, but it's amazing the amount of people that I see that they've never had anyone in their life to tell them to help them reflect on the strengths that they already have, right? And that's when it comes, the whole exploration on how they were treated before in their past by their family members, friends, the experiences that they had. And yeah, I mean, it's something that I think a lot of people need. We all do, right? To be able to remind ourselves on how good we are at the things that we do, and try to find an strengths. And some people they've never had that in their lives. That's why I think it's so important, right? The whole world of mental health as well to provide anyone that is interested into getting that level of care.
Uh, yeah. So, David, I'm curious to know. I would see on your Instagram, like you're always lifting. Seems like that's part of your hobbies. Tell me more about that, because it sounds like you apply mental health into your life.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think as especially working with athletes, right? For me, I'm a firm believer that you gotta walk the talk, right? Like if I'm talking about the athletes about how to reach that better version of themselves, I think that the physical part is also very important as well. And it relates to that self care as well, right? Like, are you taking care of your mind and you taking care of your body? Obviously, we know the benefits of exercises and the benefits that lifting and working out have in our lives, in our bodies. So yeah, I think it's very important too, and that's a way to, right? I think for me, as that I stop playing to keep pushing myself on that physical and mental realm, to keep in check, basically. So yeah, it's something that I enjoy. Again, I'm not trying to become Hulk, but I try to take care of my body as much as I can, and yeah.
Yeah, I think it serves as a motivation for, when you see it from the holistic approach. Um, if a client were to see you at least, doing something physical, and, when you're mentioning that into the room, it's like, hey, like the physical part also important. I think that will help your message speak even louder, than just talking. Say you should do something that you don't even practice.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean that's something too that I had to experience myself when once I got immersed in baseball, right? Like it was last year. It was the first time that I was using a glove, right? You wanna play catch, let's do it, and yeah, it was a freaking disaster. Those very first times, right? But you learn from it, right? You get out of your comfort zone, and yes, as we are discussing, you are able to walk the talk. I'm talking about getting you an athlete out of their comfort zone so they can learn something new, and I gotta be able to do the same thing. And I think exercise is especially important in that aspect. It helps a lot of getting out of our comfort zone.
Yeah, I think we're in the same boat because I'm working with the female soccer team at Corbin, and I even have my soccer cleats, and like we're in reverse, right? Soccer is something I love. I know the theories by talking. I know what you should do, but it doesn't mean that you know how I should do it. So that's really cool. Um,
So I'm curious, as we're coming up on about an hour now. You shared a lot of really great information. If you were to kind of synthesize your journey thus far, into one key takeaway to provide to someone listening, what would that be?
Think I would say to be patient. First of all, with whatever you're trying to accomplish in life, try to be patient. Nowadays we're in a world where we all have social media. We get these rewards right away for our brain, right? Like we mentioned dopamine, for example. We constantly get those dopamine hits from things that are very easy to get, right? And sometimes we forget that life doesn't work that way. If you want to be successful at anything that you want to do in your life, it's gonna require time. It's gonna require time. So being patient, that's number one. Number two, I would say have a short-term memory for mistakes and have a long-term memory for success. Think that's something very, very important to have in mind, especially once you get yourself into the working environment. Once you try to reach that best version of yourself in sports, there are gonna be some really bad days, right? There are gonna be some really bad days, and you gotta be able to analyze those games, those practice sessions as objectively as you can. Take that information to be better and not let those mistakes affect your confidence, right? And once you have you experience the success, enjoy them, right? First of all, enjoy them, but then also be mindful that you're gonna have to keep playing games. You're gonna have to keep practicing to get better. So it's also important to keep yourself in that present moment. And third, I would say enjoy the journey. I think that's something that again we might forget from time to time. We all get busy we all get distracted. Sometimes we all get into thinking what's gonna happen in a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. But it's important that we also enjoy the journey, whatever we're going through in that moment. I mean, all that we can focus on is the present moment. Are you taking advantage of the day that you have in front of you? So yeah, if you, at the end of the day you can say that you enjoy the day, I think that's a huge win.
Hmm. I love all of that. But I'm going to touch on the last one specifically because I think that that's applicable to everyone. Because if you think about, depression, people are often dwelling on the past. Anxiety, people are often worried about the future. But if you're present right here, right now, looking for things that bring you joy, peace, things that you admire, beautiful things, you're going to enjoy the moment so much more. And if you do that every day, then you're fending off that depression and that anxiety. So I love that.
Yeah, 100%.
So one last thing. I don't know if you're so focused on your current job that you don't have time to work with others. But if you're seeing people on the side, is there a way that people can get in contact with you?
Yeah, I'm seeing people on the side as well. And yeah, whoever is happy to get to know me a little bit more, and the way that I work, they can reach out to me through Instagram. I try to be active in that social media. So if they have any questions about anything related to process and development, mental performance, sports psychology in general, even if they just wanna hear a little bit more of the books that we discussed during the podcast, so they wanna hear some suggestions, they can reach out to me in through Instagram. And I would just mention really quick, before we go, one book that really helped me, that we talked a little bit about at the beginning, it's Mindset with Carol Dweck. I think that was either the second or third book that I read on the topic, and that really goes into explain the difference between fixed mindset, growth mindset, and the importance of whatever you're trying to get better in life. Take it as a challenge. Don't take it as something that you think, okay, either I have it or I don't. Through effort, through practice, we can all get better at something. And I might finish with this story because it comes over to the example. I remember when I was 13 years old, I was in an English class in Spain, and one of my teachers wrote this sentence on the blackboard, right, on the whiteboard. and he asked me to pronounce it, and I think it was the word subject. And instead of saying subject, because we were talking about grammar, right? Like it was a grammar class. Instead of saying subject, I think I said subject. And the first thing that he said to me, he said, "Who is that? Is that a friend from your hometown?" Right? Like he was making fun on how I pronunciated that word, right? And I think um that was when I was 13 years old, and I didn't really like starting getting more into learning English until I came here to the States. But I remember going through that as taking it as a class that I was just like, okay, I'm not good at this. And I will pass the class, but I would just give my bare minimum because I wasn't motivated at all. So I think it's very important that again, everything that either we're trying to learn something new or get better at something. That's that the journey might be long, but you can get better at it.
Well, never to give up and, continue trying. Um,
Mhm.
so, I mean, my last question is, if you like in a specific with the journey that you're following, as a process and development coach, mental performance, and therapist, someone who's seeing your journey. Today they see you working with a professional team and they're just starting their journey. What would be your advice, for all of them as they're trying to navigate what do they want to do in the future?
As far as someone that wants to get into working with professional sports.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say, well, first, finish your your degree in either on the clinical mental health counseling or sports psychology. If you want to work on, you can work with both with professional athletes. But if you want to work on the performance side, at least at the beginning, try to finish your degree in sports psychology. After you do that, try to get informed who are the people that are the top in the field. One of the biggest guys in the world of performance in general is Justin Sua, which is the head of our department. Is not only working with the Rays, but working with NFL teams, working with a lot of professional teams. He's very active in social media. So just get to know the people that are at the top of the industry, read about them, do some research on them, see how they went about their journey, the challenges that they had to face, the steps that they have to follow, and try to read as many books as you can on the subject, in the general in psychology. Try to listen to podcasts, anything that is going to allow you to have some more understanding on the field. And then try to connect with people, right? Try to network, I mean, the reason why we're doing this podcast is because we reach out to each other. We found out that we had similar stories coming here to the US, playing professional or college sports. And that's how we end up doing the podcast, right? So don't be afraid of asking a question, reaching out through Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever platform that you might choose. And you never know what can happen.
David, thank you so much. And we had a great time, getting to know more about what you're doing, your story, and, where you're headed. So we appreciate so much your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. So if you can much, guys. Yeah. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to subscribe, give us a like, and send this to someone who you might think it might benefit from this content. So thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one.
Hey listeners, if you took something meaningful away from this episode, we hope that you will like this video, you will subscribe to our channel, and share it with a friend.
Also, don't forget to check out our website or the link below so that you can download exercises that you can put into practice to help you to incorporate some of the key tools covered in this episode. Bye for now. See you in the next one. Until then, keep growing.